Welcome to the Campus Linux Services Build Overview. I'm going to briefly discuss the process for building a host in the CLS environment. There are both general and CLS prerequisites to building a host. The general prerequisites are you must have access to info blocks to register your host in DNS, and you must have a domain joined user ID if you're using Active Directory. The CLS prerequisites to building a host are you must have a tenant account in CLS, and you must also have a GitHub control repo for managing your host configurations. To configure a host in DNS, add a host record into the VLAN where your host resides. In this VLAN, you will create a new host record or update an existing one. In this case, I am creating a host record in VLAN 1108 with an IP address of 152.7.148.8. I will choose a host name or use the existing host name, and then I will enter the MAC address of the host and configure the PXE attribute in the IPv4 filters section. Now that the host is configured in Infoblox, the next step is to create the Hira configuration in GitHub. Hira is used by Puppet to store configuration data for our host. Here we are looking at the node file for the host iris200.oit.ncsu.edu. The node file contains configuration data for this specific host. More general information is defined at a higher level in a hierarchy so that it can be shared by other similar hosts. Now I am logging into Foreman. Foreman manages the build process using information defined in Puppet with information defined in the Foreman host record. I'm going to navigate to the configuration data for the host proxy-ncsu100. Foreman will contain information about the host that is not stored at Hira, like the host IP address, MAC address, and other data specific to a host. The default screen will show an overview of the data stored for this host. The Host tab contains general information about the host, including the name of the Puppet server that maintains its configuration. The Operating System tab defines the system architecture and operating system and install media as well as the initial root password. The Interfaces tab includes information about the network interface, DNS name, IP address, MAC address, and VLAN for this host. The Parameters tab contains Hira parameters that are passed into the build during the build process. In this example, the proxy type parameter defines the type of proxy server that will be built. Back at the main screen, we select the Build button, which allows the host to retrieve information from Foreman at the next network boot and save our configuration. To review the process, we have created a host record, configured Hira data for our host, created a Foreman record, then selected the Build button in Foreman to trigger and install at the next network boot of the host. At boot time, the provisioning process is started, which builds the host.